everybody. My name is Susan Gray, and I am here. I have such a pleasure, and it's such an honor to sit down here with Mr. Don Iveson, who is one of the mayoral candidates for the City of Edmonton election. And we're here with the Canadian Chinese Times, and I am just really thrilled that you came here. So thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure.
I just want to ask you a few questions, if you can
course.
just kind of, I know that there's a lot of things going on and you must be very, very busy, but I'd really like to share with the audience your background. I know you're pretty young, and a lot of, well, I guess the University of Alberta, and everybody's been watching you, so give us a little bit about that and how you got started and everything. So.
Well, I'm an old soul. I am 34, but I'm an only child, and I grew up around all my parents' friends, so I've been having grown-up conversations for about 30 years. And I have a political science degree from the University of Alberta. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but I kept putting off the LSAT. And but I graduated in 2001 with that degree, and I've been working in campus media, actually. So I worked for the campus newspaper at the U of A for many years when I was a student, and then I worked in Toronto for a few years for Canadian University Press, which is an umbrella organization for campus media. I was president of that organization, which was a great experience. I got to travel the whole country, and I still have friends to this day in newsrooms from coast to coast. And so those will come in handy if I'm mayor, because I'll know who to call in each city if I'm going to visit to tell Edmonton's story. So I spent a few years in Toronto, came back to Edmonton, worked in media for a couple more years, and then worked at the University of Alberta for undergraduate students for a couple of years, doing government relations work and strategy work with them. When I was there, I worked on the secondary suite issue, which was took me to City Hall quite a bit, actually, advocating so that the illegal suites could be made safe and legal, because there are a lot of students that live in them. And that was when there was a big crunch on housing back in 2005, 2006, and so we wanted to make it easier to build more secondary suites as well, so that there would be more supply and that they would be safe for students and other renters. So I was doing a lot of advocacy at City Hall there. And I also had the UPass file, which is the Universal Bus Pass, which is using the student ID card for now every student at, almost every student at U of A, MacEwan, and now NAIT, so that they have access to, they get sort of a group rate, and then they have unlimited access to Edmonton Transit, St. Albert Transit, and Strathcona County Transit. So I negotiated that deal between the University of Alberta undergraduate students, worked with the other student organizations, and worked with all three municipalities. So I've actually been working on regional collaboration since before I got to City Hall. And then in 2007, I was persuaded by many friends, and I was becoming more and more interested in cities, and decided to run for City Council then, and was elected, and have been on council for 6 years now, 6 of the most extraordinary years in Edmonton's history, I would say. And I live just south of the university with my wife Sarah and our 2 kids, who are 4 and 1, Dexter and Alice.
Oh wow, you live a busy, busy life.
Yeah, we are busy with a young family, but our grandparents help. Actually, my wife's parents are extraordinary. They're in town here, and they take the children on the weekends sometimes for a night or two, so that we can go to functions and still be present at all the great things that are happening in the city, the charity functions and the awards dinners and all the stuff that you have to go to when you're a city councillor or if you're mayor.
Right, right. Well, it sounds like you're really, really busy, and it's just exciting to see what you've accomplished so far. And I think a lot of people are really interested to know your position in regards to, what is your position in the development of the city? What would you say that is all about?
Well, Edmonton's one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and that's a great thing. That's a very positive sign. We're building some really good new neighborhoods with a lot of housing choice in them. We're starting to build a more vibrant downtown as well. I think there's still a gap in the in-between. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for medium density housing, especially for families with children. I think the airport redevelopment is a really exciting opportunity for us to build, if we do it right, Blatchford could be our Brooklyn. So a little walkable, medium density community just outside of downtown, a little bit quieter, but still dense enough that it can support a coffee shop at one end of the street and justify an LRT station at the other. And I think there are a lot of people, friends of mine certainly, who would like that lifestyle and don't see it. You know, it's hard to find in Edmonton, but you can find it in New York, you can find it in Toronto, you can even begin to find it in Calgary, actually. So I think Edmonton's got some catching up to do. But, you know, the fact that there's 20 to 25,000 people a year moving to this region is good, though that's barely keeping up with the demand for labor in this growing economy. So the growth is very positive, but I think there's more we can do to get a more balanced growth and particularly to start to infill the city as well.
Wow. Well, what is your vision for the city of Edmonton? Where do you see us going in, let's say, the next 5, 10, or 15 years?
Well, right now, I think Edmonton might be the most underestimated city on the continent right now.
Really?
I think so. Well, because we have an amazing story to tell. We've got great public education from kindergarten to your PhD in nanotechnology. We've got great quality of life from the River Valley to the Fringe to walking down White Avenue on a sunny Sunday afternoon. We've got an amazing restaurant scene happening here now. You know, there's great quality of life in Edmonton. And most importantly, there's phenomenal opportunity here. There's opportunity in the arts, there's opportunity in research and discovery, and there's opportunity for any kind of entrepreneur who wants to build any kind of organization or any kind of business. This is a place for builders, and Edmonton is just figuring out how to tell that story. And the Make Something Edmonton initiative, the brand and reputation initiative that the mayor drove for the last year has really started to kind of pull together Edmonton's story. And now what Edmonton needs is a great communicator to rally Edmontonians around it, because they're our most important advocates. Are, you know, what Edmontonians, the 840,000 of us, say to the world about why we live here. But then it's important for the mayor to go out and change perceptions about Edmonton, because this is an amazing place to live. It's a fantastic place to do business. It's a great place to raise a family, and there's a ton of opportunity here. And so, you know, in 5, 10, or 15 years, I don't want Edmonton to be underestimated anymore. And some of the things we need to do are, you know, we've got catching up still to do on infrastructure. The roads are in rough shape, but we're making progress. And I outlined a plan recently as part of the campaign at doniveson.ca/renewal. So if people want to read about how we're going to fix potholes, I got chapter and verse up there. So, but beyond potholes, we talked a bit about housing choice. I'd like to see Edmonton have a fuller, you know, spectrum of housing choice for families of different shapes and sizes. We need more rental housing in this city. We need more housing for seniors who may be ready to downsize from their family home. So I think we're going to see a lot of interesting new kinds of development in Edmonton over that next 5 to 10 years. And what I would really like to see is further progress on the LRT network to tie together those different redevelopment areas in the city, the different employment nodes, help relieve traffic congestion by getting people, you know, who choose to be out of their cars and onto mass transit. You know, I represent the fast-growing Southwest now, and I see what a difference LRT has made in tens of thousands of families' lives who now use it every day to get to school, to get to work, to get to a hockey game. And I want, you know, all quadrants of the city to have that experience. And in 5 to 10 years, we won't complete the whole network, but certainly, you know, in 5 to 10 years, I'd like to have a plan in place and support from the province and from Ottawa to complete the whole network, you know, not too much longer after that.
Wow, there sounds a lot that you just mentioned there.
And we didn't even touch on a vibrant downtown and a more prosperous economy and, you know, a fair city where immigrants, refugees, and Aboriginals are more fully included in the success of the city. There's lots to do. But if we can do all of those things, again, no one will underestimate this place ever again.
What would be your priority if I was to say to you, okay, so how could you promote Edmonton as a world-class city like Vancouver or Toronto? Because it's so much that you know, that we want to go to, but where would you go first? Like, what's your priority?
Well, I don't like world class as it's okay. It's a cliche that we use a lot at City Hall, and the language that I'm trying to promote is globally competitive, because world class, you sort of think, okay, we're world class now, we can sit back, right? But globally competitive, I think captures that, you know, we're working very hard, but every other city out there that wants to be extraordinary is working hard too. So everyone's got to keep sort of thirsty for greatness in Edmonton, and so you have to work hard to be globally competitive and globally relevant. And I think Edmonton is getting there.
Right.
I think the mayor has given us, Mayor Mandel has given us that kind of aspiration as a community, and so I think what I'm hearing from Edmontonians is that they want to keep going on that. They know this can be a great world city that people talk about and pay attention to and visit and invest in and move to. But one of the huge barriers to that right now is the fractured region, because this is, as a region, one of the best economies in the world, and Edmonton's at the heart of it, but we're still at a bit of a disadvantage in the region, and I'm fine with competition. I just want a level playing field, and we don't have that in the region right now. So some of the growth is happening in the counties that maybe should be in the city, and we don't have good cooperation about the infrastructure that we all need to move goods and labor in this regional economy. And the big thing is we're not promoting this regional economy together. So you'd find Calgary at a trade show with everybody working together under one big tent, whereas at the same trade show you might find, Edmonton has a small tent with EEDC and the chamber there, and I'm glad that they're there. But then in another tent in the next row you've got the Industrial Heartland Association, and then in the next row you've got Parkland Atchison, and in the next row you've got Leduc Nisku. And if Calgary's all rallied together and working together and we're fractured, then we're going to miss opportunity, and that's unacceptable to me. So I think one of the big barriers, one of the things we need to do is work together as a region with a common vision for economic development for this whole region, and collaboration in a coalition on promotion of why people should bring their time and their talent and their energy and their money to this region.
Awesome. Actually, why don't we go to this question that kind of fits in. What do you plan to do to encourage development within the Edmonton Energy and Technology Park, for instance?
I'm actually working with Brad Ferguson over at EEDC on this right now, because some empty lots at the research park, and we've been looking at a proposal or looking at something that they've done in Toronto, which is called Build Toronto, which is an arm's length corporation the City of Toronto set up to joint venture with private developers to unlock the potential of city lands. And so Build Toronto is a really good idea, and they've been very successful with it. It's paid back its initial investment, and it's now creating dividends for the City of Toronto, who's its shareholder. But it's also getting sites kind of unlocked and developed to a high standard, now paying taxes to the city. So it's kind of a win-win-win all around. And it's creating opportunity for the private sector to be involved in it as well through partnership. So Brad and I, it's Brad's idea to start in the research park with this Build Edmonton model based on what they've done in Toronto. And I think it has high hopes to help open up some new potential in the research park.
Well, I think that kind of goes into seeing Edmonton as a business-friendly city. Would you say that? And could you tell more about that and how that's working out for you? Or?
Well, I think Edmonton is well known as a good place to do business. We rank highly in a number of different surveys about business friendliness overall. I think that goes to the kind of entrepreneurial culture that's built so many of the things that we love around us. Whether it's PCL or BioWare or Yardstick Software, there are great companies that have been built here and that are loyal to Edmonton. Or whether it's the Fringe or what the University Hospital Foundation does, this community really pulls together. It's hardworking people, and I think that ethos is part of what makes this a great place to build anything. The city does have a role, obviously, in setting a tone for business. The messages coming out of the mayor's office are important. The work the mayor does to promote Edmonton, say in Toronto and in Houston and in other key markets for labor and for investment, is very important. And I don't think we've done enough in Toronto in particular, where the Mayor of Calgary presents at the Economic Club of Canada regularly, visits the Globe and Mail editorial board, will appear on ROB TV talking about why Calgary is a great place to invest. And the Mayor of Edmonton needs to be doing those things too, because we've got a great story to tell as well, as I said. And certainly I would look forward to being just that kind of champion for why Edmonton is a great place to live and do business.
Awesome. Well, okay, so you have all these great plans, I see, but what's your policy on taxes and all these expenditures and stuff? Tell me more about that.
Well, in the short term, I want to demonstrate value for money for Edmontonians, for taxpayers here. And so I proposed a week and a half ago an idea called Council's 2%, which is where City Council will set a goal every year to increase the efficiency of our operation, our tax-supported operations, by 2%. And that's about $20 million we need to find. And I want to work together with council, I want to work together with city managers and frontline staff to find places we can use technology to reduce costs. And we've done this already with, switching over to LED street lights, natural gas buses, switching from Microsoft Office to Gmail, for example. All these things save millions of dollars year over year. And I think I want to keep looking to innovation, I want to keep looking to efficiency, and I want to show our work, and I want to work on it all year round, because there's a lot of theater around the budget in the fall. But what I want to do is be able to prove to taxpayers that we are working hard to do the most that we can with the dollars that they provide through their taxes and fees. But in the medium to longer term, I would like to see cities across Canada rely less on property taxes. Not because we necessarily need more money, but because property taxes are really regressive. If you're a senior on fixed income, the taxes don't respond to the fact that your pension is pretty much flat. And if you're a business having a tough year, property tax doesn't know the difference. Income taxes are much more responsive, for example. So in Manitoba, even, municipalities there get a piece of the income tax. The province shares it with them. So that grows with the economy, and those who are making income can pay it. And I think that's more fair. And so that's obviously a medium to long-term goal, but I think the way we fund our cities has to be fair, and it has to grow with the economy. As property tax is a pretty lousy tool, and that's what I hear from business owners, it's what I hear from people on fixed incomes. And long term, I'd like to see the city have different revenue sources that we could use to phase out property taxes.
Got it. Okay, no, that's good to know where your plans are. How do you plan to create and attract high-value jobs to this city?
Really good question, and I have a track record on this already, because if you go over to the Mercer building, which is full of life now, not just with the tavern and the new coffee shop on 104th Street, but if you go upstairs and see Startup Edmonton and the tech businesses that are growing in there, which, 3 venture capital deals this year. And these are new companies formed in Edmonton by entrepreneurs, some of whom will tell you that if there wasn't something like Startup Edmonton there to help their businesses grow, to help them network with other like business owners and get supports and mentorship and professional development and all these things, that they would be building their businesses in Silicon Valley or in New York. And so there are people who we've been able to retain, really talented, bright entrepreneurs, because of Startup Edmonton. And I was one of the champions on council who supported getting Startup Edmonton off the ground. And of the 3 of us who are running for mayor, I was actually the only one to support moving ahead with Startup Edmonton. So I've had that vision for many years that we need to start supporting that tech economy, that startup space, because those entrepreneurs are critical to building the giant companies of the future. And they'll be loyal to Edmonton if we help them at the beginning. It's not about picking winners and losers. It's about a very small amount of money to help support their space and support the programming they do for professional development and networking for these young entrepreneurs. And it's part of what we do at Tech Edmonton through EEDC, part of what the post-secondary institutions do. We have to have that innovation climate here. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's a company building an app, or whether it's a company innovating a way to use less water in oil sands industrial processes, that's the kind of innovation that's going to power Edmonton's economy in the future, and I have a track record of supporting it.
Awesome. Okay, I like what I'm hearing so far. I'm very biased now. What's your view on the arts? Now, this is something that I'm really curious about. Is with the Film Commission, etc., all of that. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, we've, I think, made huge strides under Mayor Mandel. I mean, Edmonton has always been a great cultural city since the festivals were started, and we've always had a great visual art scene, an amazing theater scene. And I think, I've been proud to be on councils that have shown strong support for the arts. We get huge return on investment from the arts. The cultural industries, a very small amount of city money goes into them, but they generate a huge amount of wealth and a huge amount of fun in our city, and that's critical for attracting and retaining people. There are good jobs in those fields that are mostly supported by sponsorships and philanthropy and by ticket revenues, not by the taxpayers of the city of Edmonton. So a strong art scene is critical to Edmonton, and there's still some work to do around arts venues, but I'm a supporter of the arts. I'm a patron of the arts and an attender of the arts, and that's important for our family, and it's one of the reasons why we stayed in Edmonton. So I think we want to stay on course and want to continue to support the arts, certainly.
What are your thoughts on the Film Commission?
I'm really excited by the work of the Film Commission and actually the Film Fund too. It was great to be able to get Billy Bob Thornton and John Malkovich here this summer to film a movie, and I understand that when they left, they had nothing but good things to say about the people here in Edmonton, the professionalism, and the friendliness and hospitality of Edmontonians who they met while they were here. And so to have globally competitive, globally relevant talent like that leave Edmonton with a good experience is really good for business for us. So I think the work to reinvigorate the film studio on the south side too, that Sam Osman's been leading, is really exciting. I think that could be a growing sector for Edmonton, and I'm excited for the future of the film industry in the city.
I'm excited too. It sounds like you pretty well are on the same direction that we're all going to. What about your position on the public education? What's with everything that's going on with children and the overcrowding, all that stuff? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I mentioned before that one of the great things about Edmonton is great public education. We have some of the best public schools in the world. And whether it's the arts programs at Vic or the Mandarin bilingual education program, there are things that people come from around the world to study. And they try to figure out how we can produce kids who achieve so well in science and so well in math, and that's a great thing. And this should be one of the things that we talk about first when we're trying to attract labor force here, because if it's a professional who's got kids or is thinking about having kids, this is a great draw. I mean, you can get schools this good in New York or in Toronto or Vancouver, but you got to pay $25,000 or $40,000 a year in tuition for them. So this is a massive competitive advantage we have. And however, as with the universities and colleges and technical institutes, which are also huge employers in Edmonton, huge sources of innovation for us, and they churn out that skilled workforce that we need to build that new economy. There are challenges with funding to these institutions right now, and I'm concerned about that because I think those cutbacks may do more damage than they save in money. And I think the institutions can all recover from them, but I want to see strong continued investment from the province in our learning institutions, because they're critical to this attraction and retention of workforce, and critical to producing the productive workforce we need in the future too, and the thoughtful citizens we need, and the performers and the researchers and everybody else. So public education is one of the great things about Edmonton, and as mayor, maybe I would choose my words differently, but certainly, I was impressed when the mayor stood up this spring to defend those institutions, and I would be the same kind of advocate for them, and have been actually for the last 6 years.
Very good. Okay, now I'm going to have one question for you. Now, the mayor only has one vote, right? So how do you plan to get everybody on board with all the plans that you plan to do with the city of Edmonton should you be mayor? So how would you handle that?
Well, the mayor gets to set the tone, but you're right, the mayor's just one vote. And so you need to build a team, and I think the mayor was a great innovator. When he came up with the council initiative system, he created the opportunity for councillors to take leadership in areas of interest. So I started an initiative called the Edmonton City of Learners, which was about working on literacy, working on early learning with our library. I was also about promoting Edmonton as a city of learners, as we were just talking about. So that's just one example, but that gave me buy-in, right? It gave me the opportunity to take leadership too. So I would continue with the council initiatives program because I think it's an empowering kind of leadership to trust your peers and councillors to take leadership. But then it's also important to bring the group together. And I think to do that, you need to build one-on-one relationships with each councillor, and then you need to set up a team dynamic. And I've experienced doing that. I've done it in the region with an unlikely group of allies because I've chaired the Regional Transit Committee for the last 3 years, and that's an even more diverse group than we're likely to see around the table at City Hall. And I've been able to bring them to consensus, to work together, to even put money on the table to buy things together. And so I have experience bringing diverse groups of people together, uniting them around a vision and moving them forward. And it's a lot of listening, it's a lot of relationship building. And the good news is, a lot of people are concerned about potentially 6 new councillors and certainly a new mayor. I think it's an opportunity to build a great team that's going to hear the same thing I'm hearing, which is that Edmontonians want to move boldly forward. And so if we elect a mayor who wants to take us forward, and that's the platform I'm running on, the councillors who get elected too, most of them are going to be elected hearing the same thing from citizens, and I think we'll hit the ground running from day one.
Awesome. So let me just put this one. If I were to ask you, out of all the candidates, what are your strengths? Why should people vote for you?
Well, I mentioned the region is a big piece of unfinished business for Edmonton, but that I also have the relationships in the region from working with folks and a demonstrated track record of building consensus, building coalitions to get things done in the region. And so I believe out of the candidates, I have the edge on that file, and I think that's a critical file for Edmonton in the next couple of years. I think another area of strength for me is looking to innovation, and it's not just Startup Edmonton and helping to build that new economy or supporting those entrepreneurs who are really building that economy and being a champion for the work that they do, but within the city too. For example, when we switched over from Microsoft Office 2003, which we were still using until last year, to Google. And so everything's on the cloud and it's very new. There's a lot of transition bumps to make that change, and it was in the news because some councillors weren't happy with how it went. But my leadership style is, when I knew we were making the change, I went to our chief information officer and I said, make my office the guinea pig so that you can work out all of the bugs on us so that my colleagues will have an easier time with the transition. Because that's my attitude towards innovation, is how can I help and how can I make this smooth for the people around me, as opposed to what happened with some of the others, which was when there were bumps in the road, as there would be in any kind of major information technology shift in an organization as large as the city, there was a lot of belly aching really about that change, as opposed to my attitude, which is, how can I help on the front end? And if you need help, like, what can we learn from this? How can we do better next time? What kind of help do you need to get through this transition, right? Because And the reason why this is critically important in terms of the tone of leadership is that if you've got another city employee who has an idea for how the city can save $1 million a year, but they know that there's going to be transition pain before you get the efficiency gain, then you have to set the right tone of leadership in any organization for that person to feel confident to come forward and know that they're going to be supported even if there are bumps in the road. If the leadership tone is we have zero tolerance for risk and we expect perfection, then innovators are going to keep their ideas to themselves and maybe not even want to work for the city because it's not a positive work environment. So that's been my leadership style in all the organizations I've worked with, and as mayor, I would bring that leadership style to City Hall, and I think that's a differentiator as well.
Wow. Well, I really want to just thank you for taking the time to spend with us. It sounds like you have a great vision for where Edmonton is going and the plans, and at the same time I love the way that you have a preparedness for the bumps in the road that are going to happen. I think that's really important, and just being able to take a stand for that. I think that's just amazing what you've done. And I just want to congratulate you on everything that you've done so far. And I think that, there's some great stuff that's going to come out of here. And I just want to thank you so much. So your website again, if you want for the audience, so if you want to vote for, I'm not biased, not at all, Mr. Don Iveson, you can check out his website. It has all the information there. You have lots. It's very informative, and it's doniveson.ca.
doniveson.ca, and it's not just my election platform, but there's 6 years worth of record up there, because I've treated my website as a place to be accountable and a place to discuss with citizens about the issues of the day. So there's 6 years worth of background on the kind of leader that I've been and the kind of leader I'll be as your mayor, if elected.
So awesome. So thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon on the Chinese Canadian Times. Awesome.